Las Fierbinți has always been a mirror of rural Romania, a place where humor becomes a tool of survival and where the absurdity of everyday life exposes the deep contradictions of a society in transformation. In the episode Chipul Partea Ua, that mirror becomes sharper, reflecting not only the social disarray of a village caught between tradition and modernity, but also the quiet despair that hides behind the comic mask of its people. The story begins, as always, in the dusty streets of Fierbinți, where time seems to stand still, yet small winds of change blow through every conversation. The word chip or kip in the title refers both to a physical microchip and to the metaphorical implantation of new ways of thinking, an ironic metaphor that becomes central to understanding the episode. It is not only about technology, but about control, belief, fear, and the malleability of human perception. The villagers' reaction to the rumor of a chip being implanted by the authorities opens a Pandora's box of superstition, misinformation, and social satire. As the episode unfolds, each character's reaction becomes a caricature of a real societal archetype. Bobița, the bar owner, turns the situation into a business opportunity, as he always does, selling supposed anti-chip talismans or drinks that cleanse the system. His opportunism is so genuine and familiar that it no longer seems immoral. It is survival. Celentano, on the other hand, becomes the philosophical drunk, voicing the paranoia of the masses with his drunk logic, full of contradictions, yet emotionally persuasive. Gianni, the naive dreamer, believes he can somehow use the chip to his advantage, imagining himself as part of a futuristic elite. His illusions, absurd yet sincere, become a reflection of how misinformation and ambition feed off each other in societies that crave change but fear it at the same time. The episode's humor lies in the authenticity of these reactions. It is never about laughing at them, but laughing with them, recognizing the fragments of ourselves in their confusion. The cinematography subtly enhances this theme. The lighting in the bar scenes is slightly dimmer than usual, and the camera lingers longer on faces, capturing the micro-expressions of doubt, fear, or pride. Even though the script is comedic, there is an underlying melancholy in the way the villagers talk about control, about who they are, the mysterious powers that always seem to decide their fates. It is as if the whole village has internalized the trauma of decades of mistrust toward authority. The chip becomes a symbol of all invisible forces that people cannot see but blame for their misfortunes. Director Dragoș Buliga crafts this atmosphere with remarkable subtlety. He allows silence to play a role. There are small pauses in dialogue that reveal more than the words themselves. When Celentano stares into his empty glass, muttering about being controlled through the brain, it's not only funny, it's deeply sad, a moment that captures how loneliness and ignorance often lead to conspiracy thinking. Las Fierbinți has always been about the human condition, and this episode is no exception. The humor is simply the sugar that helps the bitterness of truth go down. The brilliance of the script lies in its rhythm. It moves naturally, like a conversation overheard in a village square, full of interruptions, tangents, and impulsive laughter. But beneath that chaotic surface lies an elegant structure, where each dialogue serves to expose a different aspect of the same collective fear. There is the fear of losing autonomy, of being manipulated, of not being seen by those in power, or of being too seen. The chip, as an idea, embodies the paradox of modern society, the desire for progress and the terror of its consequences. From a broader perspective, Chipul Partea Ua can be read as an allegory of Romania's relationship with technology and bureaucracy. The rural world of Fierbinți is not simply backward, it is cautious. Technology arrives as an alien language, incomprehensible and intimidating, yet its rejection is not entirely irrational. The villagers' skepticism toward the chip mirrors, a national skepticism toward institutions, born from years of political instability and corruption. This is why Las Fierbinți works on so many levels. It entertains, it ridicules, but it also records the pulse of a society still searching for trust. As I watched the episode, I could not help but think of how universal this theme is. I grew up in a small town myself, where rumors spread faster than logic, and every new invention or policy was met with suspicion. The old men at the local bar would dissect the news with the same combination of ignorance and wisdom as Celentano and Bobița. The laughter that came out of those moments was not mockery, it was connection, a way of saying we may not understand the world, but we understand each other. In that sense, Las Fierbinți is not just a Romanian story, it's a human one. One of the most powerful scenes in the episode comes when the villagers gather around the table to debate whether they should go to the city to check if they have been chipped. The scene plays like a modern parody of ancient councils, with everyone speaking over one another, each convinced they hold the truth. Yet beneath the noise, there is a profound depiction of how fear can unite a community as much as it divides it. Everyone wants to belong to a side, to be part of a narrative that makes sense of their confusion. The comedy of the situation hides a quiet tragedy. No one is really listening. The absurdity of their conversation mirrors the online discussions we see every day, where people argue passionately about things they barely understand, clinging to half-truths that make them feel secure. The cinematography once again reinforces this chaos through tight framing and quick cuts, creating a visual claustrophobia that mirrors the mental entrapment of the characters. The editing deliberately exaggerates reactions, yet never crosses into mockery. It treats their confusion as something sacred, something to be understood, not ridiculed. This humanistic approach is what separates Las Fierbinți from typical sitcoms. It does not use its characters as punchlines, but as vessels of empathy. When Gianni later sits outside, staring at his phone and wondering aloud if they can hear him through it, the moment transcends comedy. It becomes a reflection of our shared anxiety in the digital age. We all live with invisible chips now, in our pockets, in our screens, in our minds. The episode's power lies in its ability to expose that anxiety without moralizing it. Instead of preaching, it shows. Instead of concluding, it observes. From a technical standpoint, the script demonstrates impressive balance. It uses repetition as rhythm, allowing phrases like, "They put a chip in us," to echo like a chorus, creating a sense of ritual. The dialogue feels improvised, yet it's meticulously constructed to sound authentic. The writers understand that rural speech has its own poetry, its own cadence, and they never condescend to it. The humor emerges naturally from the rhythm of language itself, not from forced punchlines. Each actor, too, embodies this authenticity. Mihai Margineanu's Bobița delivers lines with a blend of cynicism and innocence, while Adrian Vancica's Celentano achieves a kind of tragic poetry in his drunken rambling. These performances elevate the episode from mere comedy to something resembling ethnography. It's a portrait of a community not through its successes, but through its misunderstandings. What makes Chipul Partea wine so memorable is that it refuses to resolve itself. There is no moral lesson neatly packaged at the end. The episode ends with ambiguity, the characters no wiser than they began, but perhaps more united in their confusion. This lack of resolution is the point. life in Fierbinți never changes drastically. What changes is the way we look at it, the way humor becomes a shield against meaninglessness. On a personal level, I find this episode haunting because it exposes the fragility of knowledge. It reminds us how easily truth becomes distorted when filtered through fear. I think of how many times I've seen people, intelligent and well-meaning, fall into similar patterns of mistrust. The villagers' fear of being controlled through chips is not so different from our own unease about being tracked online. The only difference is that they express it with laughter, while we often hide it behind cynicism. Perhaps that's why Las Fierbinți resonates so deeply. It turns our own anxieties into comedy, allowing us to confront them without pain. From a symbolic perspective, the chip can also be read as an invasion of identity. Each character's reaction represents a different way of negotiating identity in a changing world. Bobița's opportunism reflects adaptation. Celentano's paranoia reflects nostalgia. Gianni's delusion reflects aspiration. Together, they form a psychological map of a society in transition. The episode subtly suggests that modernity does not simply arrive. It implants itself in the collective consciousness, reshaping the way people see themselves. Even the visual details contribute to this reading. The constant background noise of phones, televisions, and radios forms a kind of technological hum that contrasts with the natural sounds of the village. It's as if two worlds coexist but never fully meet. That tension is the essence of Las Fierbinți. It's a show about coexistence, about finding humor in contradiction. As the episode closes, one cannot help but feel a sense of melancholy. The laughter fades, and what remains is the image of a community lost between eras. They fear being controlled, yet they are already controlled by their fears. They seek truth, yet they cling to stories. The beauty of Cipul Parteaua lies in that paradox. It shows how ignorance can be both tragic and tender, how humor can be both armor and confession. It invites us to laugh, not because we are superior, but because we recognize ourselves in their confusion. Watching the episode feels like looking into a distorted mirror, where every exaggeration hides a piece of truth. I believe that is the true genius of Las Fierbinți. It transforms the smallest gestures into social commentary, the simplest conversations into philosophy. Cipul Parteaua is not just an episode about a rumor. It's an episode about how rumors define reality, how stories replace facts, and how people build meaning out of nonsense. It's about the need to belong, to believe, even when what we believe is absurd. And maybe that's what makes us human.